And Joe Cole said something where he said, is the juice worth the squeeze? And what he means is what they're trying to implement with VAR actually worth it, or is it detracting from the spectacle, the quality that's on pitch? Is it detracting?
Okay, so my view on this is like quite ranging, and I can understand people's position if they like explain it properly, yeah, because I understand what he's saying, and some of the grievances that I hear about it is like it takes too long. You know what I mean? They make mistakes. They're looking back at stuff and trying to get rid of goals and so on, yeah. And I think an argument like that, you should in theory be able to quantify it. And I think the PGMOL are trying to do that in the fact that like they're trying to make decisions quicker. Because even now compared to say a couple of years ago, things are quicker, even though it feels slow. And we're used to a fast-paced game of football, yeah. But then we also sort of turn a blind eye to when there are lulls within games as well. Like we talk about football, like there's something happening every second of every minute of everything. This is like the best thing ever. Oh my God. It finishes 1-0. How good was it? You know what I mean? And I think all those grievances are fair, but I think it's more of an ode to what people were used to when they first started playing and what they used to like casually watch when they first started. And it is different now, but that's the question initially, like VAR, who's it for? And in theory, well, for me, is for the referees to be able to say that the work that they do produces a fairer outcome more often than not. And for the way that they judge themselves, because they always have to be reviewed, as we've known for decades. I think a couple of years ago I saw that in terms of the big decisions that matter the most, their percentage has gone up from like 88 to like 93, 94. Yeah. So that's the starting point for them. The fact they were making more correct decisions.
Yeah.
And this is the problem now, and I knew when the world had flipping lost its mind was in I think it was in the Euros. Maybe it was the last Euros. I think there was Gary Neville, there was Roy Keane, and there was a referee, a former referee, and they were talking about, it was at the last World Cup actually, and they were talking about a decision, and the referee explained why it was a penalty, and Gary Neville and this other person said, "Well, you're wrong." And I was like. Like, we've lost it here.
Yeah.
Because for whatever we do as people, we watch the game, play the game, we haven't been raised on refereeing the game. Yeah. That's why even to this point in the last few years, we see decisions which make no sense to us because they're laws which we knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And I don't think we as a fan base realistically are educated enough about the game to see how they would do things. So the decisions which are being made and certain decisions within that might become subjective amongst referees to where some might give it, some might not. But they're trying to create a fairer outcome. And if it's to be gotten rid of, you need them to be the ones that don't like it. And as every year passes, Howard Webb and all these other people in the PGMOL, they're trying to refine it, give a better experience. Like that's why a ref is now trying to say something to the crowd. And I was a bit skeptical about this because I thought the crowd realistically, it's not about, for me, not about necessarily knowing what the decision is because you're going to disagree with it anyway. But they're like, well, maybe we'll tell them what it is so they feel a part of the process. Listen, man. If fundamentally you disagree with a decision, you'll always be up against it. So with the video assistant referee, they look back at things and they're coming in less now than they were doing before because every year it's to refine. And I think a lot of the conversations led by the people who were on the call for the game who don't necessarily know what's going on. And I think if they knew what was going on more often than not, and when I say not knowing what's going on, like they don't understand the processes as such. They don't understand what the referees are looking for, how they're doing things. And I think in my mind, the world would be in a better place, football-wise, if they can say what it is that's going on, why a decision's being given, but say that they don't like it. But instead, they say they don't like it and that it's wrong. And that misses the point for me. So from a video assistant referee standpoint, I get it why some people don't like it. But some of this is a sense of nostalgia because across the years, so many rules and things, laws have changed. And depending on when you were first consuming football, dictates whether you like this or like that. Some people liked it when... Like they'll say, oh, but did you watch the Premier League in the 90s with like Vieiras and Keanes and all this stuff? Yeah, but did you also watch like Charlton versus whomever at the same time on like this messy pitch at the stadium? Well, no, they didn't, and they don't want to watch that. Some of the refereeing, football's better back when. Let me show you this video of a player being assaulted with a tackle, and the ref said, it's fine. And even bits of language like, say for the way we see it, like all three of us, if someone gets an early yellow card, we'll be like, oh, come on, it's early. What does that mean? So you could just assault someone to start the game. That's a no to an even more different time.
Moment where it's fine still.
Yeah, like, but why should it be fine? Because in theory, the stuff that they're doing to the game of football is supposed to be designed to make it fairer in terms of the outcomes. And they don't always necessarily feel like that's the case. But if you speak to the PGMOL, who speak to pundits and broadcasters every month to talk about key decisions in a month, And the best bit about that is at the end of the call, you're allowed to ask them any question.
Have you been
want.
on them calls?
I've been on the
tell
calls,
us about
yeah.
this call then.
So it's a call that goes out to all the broadcasters that have the rights, essentially, to show Premier League football, whether it's highlights or live.
So we're talking TNT, we're talking
TNT,
Sky,
BBC, Sky,
BBC,
whatever. It could be radio, TalkSport, whatever it is. And the link will get sent out, and you can tune in at this time, and they'll run through the key decisions. Like, for example, in this next month now, they'll be talking about, say, that Chelsea decision. They'll be talking about other decisions. And again, there's a subconscious bias. If you don't like something, you don't realise when it works well. Because if it's the decision that's given, everyone's like, oh, they're taking goals away. Well, how about if an assistant referee puts their flag up, traditionally that means the move has to stop. But now they put the flag up later. So now you only perceive it, say, well, why you put your flag up too late? But how about the goals which are then scored and then the flag goes up? If this was back in the day, the flag would have just gone up and the goal would never have been scored.
Yeah.
So perception can dictate like that. But you get on this call and it's usually got, like, if you notice, all main commentators know what's going on.
Yeah.
Not all co-coms, former players, know what's going on.
Do they not tune into the call?
Some people do. A lot of them don't. And I think the ones who have the biggest platforms tend not to, whether they're busy or whatever. They'll do the early season briefing that everyone has to go through. But after the season progresses, they just hold things against it. Like, there was one guy in particular. I won't mention him by name because I don't necessarily want to fully throw him under the bus. But I had this debate with him because, again, like, I'm agnostic to some of this. I just like that I can speak to referees and see where they're coming from with something, which as a player I had no interest in doing because I used to hate refs. But now I see how tough their job is. And I said to him, oh, you should be on this. I said, do you know about this call and so on? He says, yeah, but why would I ever go on that? I don't like referees. This is somebody that's doing commentary for games on a weekend.
Who can influence?
Literally influence
people's
it, yeah.
opinion?
He said, oh, this is crap, that's crap, this is no good. Like, that's never been, when someone says that's never been yellow, explain to me why. Yeah. Because if you understand the laws of the game, you can say, oh, I see why that's yellow, but it's a shame that that's where we're at with football.
They just don't agree with the
law.
law.
They fundamentally that is the crux of the argument.
Yeah.
A lot of people who talk about football fundamentally disagree with changes that happen within football in terms of how it's being refereed. Yeah. But a referee, when they go to a monitor, for example, gets a chance to referee according to the standards that they have in that moment. And again, to put it into perspective, a referee, like, I know some people have tuned out because I'm talking about referees, but a referee doesn't see everything. And that's why the video assistant referee is there to help the refereeing team to do with stuff that they haven't seen, because most of the time they have to speculate and say, is this or is this that?
Right, back to my original question. Do you think the juice is worth the squeeze? If it's 5% improvement, is that 5% better
What's
improvement?
The issue? What's the issue? What's your biggest issue against it?
My biggest issue against it is that it saps the life out of the game. If you're sat as a spectator, for the 70,000 in the stadium, I feel that it's too much about. And you said what you said a minute ago about the referees. You need to get them to not like it, and I don't think it should be about the referees.
But it has to be. That's the coefficient of a game.
But I also agree. The best games are the ones where you never really see the referee. That's back. That's an old way of saying it.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And there's new rules which need picking, and you're going to hear the whistle a lot more. But I just think there's got to be a better way of doing it where I'm not sat around for 8 minutes for a Bruno Fernandes penalty.
Okay, so the Bruno Fernandes penalty that takes 8 minutes, is that the exception? Is that the norm?
It's not that. It's neither. It's not the exception or the norm. But there's
8
been
minutes
plenty
is closer
of
to the exception.
Eight is the exception.
I think,
but there's plenty of 7, 6s and 5s as well.
You say that, but could you quantify that? Because when you think of it this way, there are 10 games played in the Premier League every weekend.
Yep.
But we talk about probably 2 or 3 incidents maximum.
Only normally because they're the big games, though.
That's the point. So the big games are skewing the perception of the overall thing.
I can only go off the games I watched at the weekend then, for example, right?
Fair,
so I watched the early Chelsea game.
Yeah.
I picked up a bit of the highlights of the Man United one, and then there was another one, the Leeds-Newcastle one, on where even the point where they had the communication error with the referees, right? So they had a communication error with the referees, so they had to stop the game for 4 or 5 minutes. They went to go and sort it out, and I'm just thinking, even this, it's like the referees are still have to be a big old integral part of it. You can go back to a place where they could carry on doing the game and just try and get it sorted along the way.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but then it's like competitive, like fairness as such, as is the case, like why a kit's got to be a certain colour, where the badge got to be a certain size. There's certain things which are just part of the process.
Thanks everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed the latest episode of the Fozcast. Don't forget to give us a follow on Spotify. Up the Fozcast.